I will tell you about my journey ever since I was born. I was born in a small village in Marange community, that's the eastern part of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is divided into 5 agriculture regions or zones. Region 1 being the one that receives most rainfall, maybe 1,500 mils annually, average. Then region 5 being the one that receives less rainfall, that's an annual average of 450 mils every year. So I was born in a village that sits in region 5, meaning that it receives low rainfall. So growing up, we witnessed so many droughts, we can't even count them. It's already a dry area, but when a drought comes, it makes it even worse. I remember 1991, 1992, there was a severe drought in Southern Africa, and it affected our community the most. There was no food anywhere because the crops could not grow any crops, it could not yield anything. Livestock died. Most of the cows and goats, they died because there was no drinking water. We witnessed women having to walk longer distances to look for water, like she was saying, but it did not end there. Families had to marry off their daughters to put food on the table. It had reached extreme cases. What started as a climate-induced drought or environmental problems escalated to a social or a gender issue. We did not see anyone selling their boy children, but they could sell their girl children to put food on the table. It goes back to the lobola issue that she was talking about, that a man pays lobola to get a wife. So you could, this time around, you could go with your daughter, offer her to any man as long as they give you something to eat. That was lobola enough at that time. So for me, that kind of hit a button inside me. I think I was around 9 or 8 that time, and you just notice that maybe in a week's time 2 girls are missing from your class, 3, 4 girls are missing from your school, and you know they've been married off because families can't feed their families. 2002, 2003, yet another severe drought hit, and we witnessed the same. Little water or climate-induced droughts are something that we experience every other year. But the same province, which is Manicaland, we also have areas like Chipinge and Chimanimani that are on the other end of this water issue, cyclones. 2001, we had Cyclone Elin, very destructive. 2016, we had Cyclone Dineo, another one that was very destructive. But 2019 topped it all with Cyclone Idai. It was all over the news, whereby the cyclone was so severe that homes were destroyed. Sometimes you wake up and your neighbor is not there, including their house. They have been swept away during the night, and those bodies were never found. Some of them, they appeared or they started floating in the ocean. That's how bad it was. In instances like that, women and children are the most affected. Men can always migrate. We have seen men migrating ever since 1992 when we started experiencing droughts. They go to neighboring countries, they go to the cities. But women remain in their homesteads with children. They have to feed those families. They have to find water. They have to find school fees to send all those children to school with little resources. Sometimes the husband goes to South Africa, does not find a job maybe for 2-3 years. It's the woman who is at home who has to fend for those children. You can't rest if there's no food because the children want to eat. You can't rest if there's no water because you need water in the house. It becomes a gender issue when it comes to climate change or climate-induced impact, because women are the ones that are in touch with the environment. Like she was also saying, some social issues come into play. if there is school fees for one child and there are 2 children in the house, a boy and a girl, they would rather send a boy to school because there are limited resources. Climate-induced impacts or droughts limit resources. So when there's limited resources, society has to choose who goes to school. Society has to choose who goes to work at 15 to fend for the families. This is the realities of climate-induced droughts or the impacts of climate. I've been here since Sunday, where I'm attending COP26. Interesting, overwhelming experience because this is my first COP, but also excited at the same time to finally think that a solution has been found, or we are working on it. The Paris Agreement that we also all have been waiting for, finally they are going to put it into action. But are we really going to put it into action, or we are going to have more talks and less action? So this is what I wish for every woman who is from an indigenous community or from a marginalized community, that the Paris Agreement speaks into gender issues, gender equality, adaptation measures, so that all those families that find themselves at the far end of either cyclones or droughts, they can find better ways of producing food, better ways of making sure they have water in their households. They can find better ways of finding green jobs through the adaptation fund, through the mitigation funds that they are talking about. But there's one issue that has been silent that everyone doesn't want to talk about: damage and loss. If you look at all the COP26 talks, it's something that is being pushed to next year or to 2023 or 2025. But we have communities that experience cyclones ever since 2001. They've never managed to rebuild. There are schools or there are children who are still learning outside because their classrooms were destroyed in the Cyclone Idai. In 2019, during Cyclone Idai, they need rehabilitation, they need compensation. Loss and damage is something that is very more urgent for marginalized communities. Thank you.
Thank you.